All right, I'll give Sirens this. It kept me on my toes the entire time. Whether it worked or not, we'll discuss that, but I'd love to know down below, did you enjoy this limited series, and how did you feel about the ending? Let's discuss.
I told you Dad got diagnosed with early onset dementia, and you said a fruit basket!
Welcome, ladies! Sips and nibbles are in the bag.
First off, I knew nothing about this show before I clicked play. It's all about a girl who thinks her younger sister's relationship with her new boss is weird. They're on an island. Is it a cult? Is there something mystical or mythical at play? And that first episode is so ominous with the way it presents itself. You don't know which direction this story is going. Is it going to focus on the relationships, or is there something out of the box at play? And then I saw the poster and thought, okay, this cast is kind of stacked. I mean, listen to this. Glenn Howerton, Millie Alcock, Meghann Fahy, Bill Camp, Julianne Moore, Kevin freaking Bacon. How did I not know anything about this show? And so I'm looking through the showrunner's history. Molly Smith Metzler, who worked on Orange is the New Black, Shameless, Maid, and you've got a lot of good going into a series like this. And only 5 episodes, which could be like the best thing because they're not going overboard with the length of this series, which I feel like Netflix shows often do. And is this going to go in that direction? The name Sirens, kind of how we're operating through the first few episodes. There's something going on with Julianne Moore's Michaela. You can't quite put a finger on it, but other than Millie Alcock's character, who is extremely close with her new boss, like mimicking her every movement, all of the workers underneath Michaela hate her as much as they hate their actual boss, if she is their actual boss. We get introduced to Kevin Bacon's character a little later on. The husband finally comes into the picture, and I really enjoyed his presence. There's a mysterious aspect to this entire thing, and when Meghann Fahy's character coming in and just trying to figure out what the heck is going on, and why can't I get my sister out of this cult, because that's the feeling, that's the vibe you get with all of the yes women, not yes men, yes women, and the entire feeling you get from this organization that's trying to protect endangered bird species, but then that storyline, there's a bird she releases into the wild at the beginning of the show, and then something happens a little later on. Again, we're not going to spoil things in this video, and I'm just like, that's okay. What's the meaning behind that, and why didn't we carry that over into the final episode? My biggest issue with Sirens, and I actually, you know what, I enjoyed this show. I had a good time with it. When a show manages to keep you on your toes to the level that Sirens does without feeling ridiculous, it gets close. It straddles the fence on not ridiculous a handful of times, but it doesn't quite reach that level. I'm sure it will for other people, but I liked not knowing which direction we were going in until the very end, when ultimately I felt a little shortchanged on the resolution. Admittedly, I didn't expect it. I didn't think we would end up there, and it was kind of cool that they were able to catch me off guard a couple of times. But within that, I still had questions like, why did you spend so long on a handful of plot points that really didn't mean anything by the end? It also becomes a little overly complicated with the characters that are mentioned in the beginning of this story, right? You have 2 sisters going on very different paths in their life, and the older sister is trying to save her younger sister from what ultimately looks like a dire situation, because the rumors about Julianne Moore's Michaela, this group, this high society, the way that they operate, the relationship between her and her assistant, everything is so, out there. She feels as if it's her obligation to bring her younger sister home. But at home, we have their father, Bruce, played by Bill Camp, who does a fantastic job, by the way, who ultimately becomes a stronger part of this story than, I don't want to say than needed, because this is the meat and potatoes of their relationship, how it started, why it's went off the rails. But he becomes integrated into this situation, as does a guy named Raymond, as does a guy named Jordan, Glenn Howerton's character, Ethan. And I'm talking solely within the dialogue. It was giving me White Lotus vibes at times. There's this mystery at play, and it could go completely off the rails, or it could stay more realistic, and some of the dialogue, how people interacted with each other, was giving me like, okay, this could have been an HBO show. I think it points through this series. It gave me higher quality than expected vibes within the dialogue. Now, by the time you get to the end, you realize not everything comes together beautifully, and that was a little disappointing, but I want to give kudos and credit to the people who worked on the script here, because there were some genuinely great moments, as well as moments between these two sisters, and even between this out-of-the-box boss and her assistant, who is doing everything she can to make the right impression on these people, that are more emotional than maybe I expected, and some moments that were tender and wonderful. And I'm like, all right, this show does have a lot to offer within that. But when it comes to bringing all of these ideas together, I don't know if it lands, right? The name Sirens immediately, and the opening sequence, gives you vibes that this could have something else to it, like a mystical element. And then the show teases throughout the first few episodes that there is something else going on numerous times. And there's a point, I believe it was episode 3, where you got our 3 dimwit girls having a conversation with Meghann's character, and something happens in that moment that led me to believe, okay, now this show is getting interesting, because how are they going to play off of that? And inevitably, they kind of do in the finale, but it's never talked about, right? There are things that happen in the finale that lead you to believe there is something else going on here, but it's never discussed. And there's 2 ways you can approach that. You leave that up to the viewer's interpretation, which is interesting in itself, or it's so disappointing you decided not to even touch that within the dialogue between our characters. And I'm falling somewhere in the middle as a viewer. I like that it didn't overtly explain what was truly going on within this show, but I'm also sitting here going, you didn't want to mention it beyond what actually happens? Like, the finale was so unexpected, the direction that they ultimately went, which I like, I appreciate. I watch a lot of TV shows. I'm always looking for something that's going to be, even if it's a little bit off the rails, I'm looking for something that's going to feel a little different. And this show felt a little different. That's why ultimately I'm a little more good than bad. But there's that part of my brain that's thinking, man, you set up some interesting things that you just never came back to. And ultimately, this show didn't really know what it was trying to do. Although in the process of getting there, it delivered some nice moments. And that's where I'm falling as a viewer. I wanted to love this with everything in me. And I was pretty amped going into the finale, like, okay, where are they going to take this? They've got a lot of questions to answer. I don't know if they're going to get there. And they don't. They fall short. But I do appreciate the journey leading to that underwhelming destination. The interactions between these characters. Millie Alcock is really, I mean, you truly believe that she wants to do this with everything in her, but she has secrets of her own involving another character by the name of Ethan that she is keeping from Julianne Moore's character. And then when Kevin Bacon comes into the picture, he makes things more interesting, but he also makes it a little more insane. And so all of the big cast members are pulling their weight, and they are doing a great job. And that sisterhood, the bond between I would think our 2 main characters here, is really good. And I love all of the nuggets they dropped about their past. Now, again, incorporating their past, it was a little too much going on by the end. But ultimately, it's all leading to one big moment at the end. And I just don't know if it delivered on that. So I want to know where you fall on this 5-episode limited series. Is the cast enough for you? Is the dialogue enough for you? Or did they just have too many ideas and they couldn't really focus on one thing? I would love to know where you fall. This is an open discussion for this Netflix show that I am late on. I had a long weekend, but I finished it. Also, if you like this review, let me know what to review next on Netflix. Drop a like, share the video, all those things. Sirens embraces its consistent insanity and ultimately delivers a solid story on sisterhood and deception. In the end, there is too much at play, and there isn't enough within the resolution that will make viewers feel fully satisfied, but the attempt is admirable. Again, it was an easy binge, to be honest with you, because there's so much going on, because it's 5 episodes. But I just felt as if the ideas were all over the place, and maybe going in the direction that I didn't expect was the right move. But you know what? Really good cast. I appreciate you all watching. Thanks so much, and I'll see you later today, actually.